My name is Kevin Kerr. I am the marketing manager of Empower Software Technologies. We are the providers of the Storage Commander software. We've been in the industry for 20 years doing this. We do try to tie in a lot of different things with automation and try to build that on for you guys. Automation is such an awesome tool because basically it's designed to keep all the effort off of management, decrease costs, and free up time for them to do other more important things. So this will be my first time speaking over at ISS. Very happy to be here, and I hope everyone's having a good time so far. I don't want to take up too much time with any introduction, so I'm just going to kind of jump into everything. Over here, I just have a brief overview, kind of some key points that we're going to be going over. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read over the summary beforehand. Basically, we're going to be going over driving rental occupancy, automating revenue management, marketing, tenant communication, and data security. Lots of different points in there, so hopefully if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we do have some Q&A at the end of this as well, so plenty of time for information. Without further ado, I'm going to jump into the driving rental occupancy. This is kind of an important point. Lots of people have questions about this. The most important part about this that I actually see all the time is that a lot of the people that are looking to increase rates, sometimes they're not the ones that actually need to. If you have a higher rental occupancy, you might not want to be putting any of these into place. On the other hand, a lot of people are afraid to put in some of these automations. No one saw that. I'm the last speaker of the day. If things get wet, it's okay. And if I make any bad jokes, I apologize. It's just going to happen. Anyways, continuing on. Basically, what I was trying to say was that a lot of people, the lower occupancies that could really use some of these automation tools, basically they're a little afraid to lose customers or even just try to put in different institutions. But we're going to go into that in a second. So the first thing I wanted to actually put in there, I went over to the 9 o'clock, I think it was, on the educational track, and it was on websites, which is fantastic. I think it's a very important part over there, and I just wanted to put this in here as a kind of a jumping off point, because the websites themselves, when it comes down to it, is if you don't have a website, you need to have a website. If you have a website, you want to just make sure that you are making the most of it all the time. Some basic points over here. Online payments. If you're going to have a website, you should have those. They're self-explanatory. All of your customers want them. The only downside of online payments that I've ever even seen was some customers having a small amount of units, say 20 units, and their customers are used to coming in making the payments. The only bad thing you're going to see is a possible rise in credit card transaction costs, because it would technically be card not present transactions. So you might end up having to do that at a higher rate. But that's the only thing, that your customers are going to love it, you're going to love it, it's going to be good. Online rentals and reservations. These two I want to kind of put a little more focus on. The online rentals have been introduced to the industry for a few years now, and they've been going very well. E-signature really kind of opened that up. A lot of more things being put through email and getting over to the customers. Again, we want to decrease management time to make these rentals. The reservations are kind of similar to the rentals, but they're kind of a little more of a, I want to say, safer route to a wary owner. The reason I say that is because we have a lot of people that come up to us and tell us about their practices doing online rentals, and the one thing that they've kind of sometimes erred on the side of caution was that they don't have that interaction with the customer. Sometimes if you've had red flags, things like that, you get an itchy, twitchy guy wanting to store something in there. Oh, all of a sudden, I'm sorry, sir, my last unit has a broken spring on it, but there's a place down the street. It's great. Sometimes you don't want to sit to that person. It's going to be the only real benefit you get over there is a little more face time with the customers. If you want to build up that customer service, that's great too, because you're still collecting all the information online. You're getting their contact information, everything else. All they're coming to do is coming over to the site to sign and start renting. So all good things. On top of these features for your website, there's a couple key points to kind of acknowledge as well would be your search engine optimization, your website presence, so having a clear call to action, but all of that is more kind of tied in with developing the website itself. It's not really automation, but it's definitely all good points. All that, go on to the next one. Wanted to talk about kiosks. This isn't going to be pertinent to everyone. Not everyone's going to use kiosks, but they are pretty much the quintessential embodiment of automation for self-storage. You can rent units directly from there, 24/7, live video interaction. I mean, I'm not trying to sound like a kiosk commercial, but bottom line is if you're looking to automate your facility and looking to decrease staffing costs, kiosks are a definite possibility for anyone that really kind of want to look into that option. A lot of the time people, when kiosks are brought up, basically is going to be the cost. It's a large cost sometimes to put in some of these devices, but so is staffing a facility. I mean, it's really going to be dependent on what you're looking for and what fits your situation as a business owner. So again, not going to be pertinent to everyone, but definitely something that you should keep in the back of your mind for future possibilities. Okay, next, we're going to be talking about listing services. These are basically going to be or lead aggregators. So like Sparefoot, US Storage Search, there's a bunch of them out there. They're good for people that have not had the benefit of being able to create a web presence or a website. If you don't have one, this is a good alternative. If you don't have web marketing and things like that, then the listing services will actually give you a great boost in search engine optimization. They're highly ranked with Google, so you will get good placement locally. And the downside, I mean, with anything, it's going to have a cost, whether that be the first month's rent or something like that. They're going to take a piece of the pie. But if you have low occupancy and you're trying to get that higher, it's better to give a piece of the pie away than not have any pie at all. So with that being said, again, it's not going to fit with everyone, but if you have low occupancy and you're looking to boost up more of a web presence, you may want to consider listing services as well. Revenue management. I love revenue management, especially for the fact that we talked about earlier. Kind of touched on it, is that a lot of people are afraid to do rate changes, things like that. But nowadays, there's a lot more different ways to kind of attack that problem. You don't just wait until you feel like it or check your average rental length and make decisions based on that. You can do a few different ways to actually kind of take a safer approach on revenue management itself. First one I want to talk about real quick is going to be tiered rate changes based on occupancy. It's kind of interesting. You can use it as a kind of two-sided coin for that, and you do this through your management software, depending on who you use. Another term that I've heard for these would be considered push rates. I really like the idea because they really fit well for all facilities, whether you're a small shop or a large 21 portfolio site. It really does help because on your smaller units, your low occupancy units that we talked about briefly before, you can have those base street rates set over for a lower price to look more appealing to any possible consumers. And once you've actually reached the desired occupancy, the discounted rate will basically drop off for all future renters. You can do that in a tiered way, so you can set them for different percentages at different occupancies. And on the flip side of that, if you want to kind of meet supply and demand with a higher occupancy unit, so for example, your 5x5s have been on fire, what you can do is basically set them to, let's say, 10% more than your usual street rate and actually just keep trying to maximize your profitability that way. Next one we're going to talk about real quick is expiring discounts and promotions. It's a good way to basically not hit your bottom line too hard when you're really kind of just focusing on trying to keep things for your customers and make them appealing, but also keep your bottom line solid. So basically, the way that these can work is you can set them up to automatically discard themselves from a customer's account if a tenant has gone delinquent. I really like the idea of that. You get the grab, you get the appeal of that discounted rate, but you're also kind of keeping your customers in line in the same fact. And if you keep a customer for months and he ends up going late, it's under your discretion whether or not you keep that on there, but you're under no obligation to. I mean, again, it's really going to be up to your business model and what you decide on, but having those more options available will really kind of help you out as you're going along. Another one I wanted to bring up real quick, actually don't believe it's on here, would be automatic rate changes. And that's just set in the first place. So for example, if you have a customer come in, John Doe starts renting with you today, you can have it automatically apply a future rate change, say 10 months from now, to increase by 10%. So it'll generate the documents, it'll send everything out to the customer, email them, however your delivery method is, and basically you have these set up for every single customer. So whatever your average length of rent is, you can basically be pushing that up and increasing your profits without actually having that drastic hit to all of your tenants at the same time. It's a good approach for those who are a little hesitant about across-the-board rate changes. Sometimes those can be scary. This way's not. John Doe A is not going to get hit with this same rate change at the same time as Jane Doe, who rented a week later. So you're never going to have that hit. And the great thing about all of these different rate change methods is the trial and error of it. If one thing isn't working, all you have to do is just take a step back, realize that maybe this rate was a little too high, maybe I have to adjust, and basically just make those changes. That you're not going to be affecting your current customers with something like this. This is going to be affecting your units that you're trying to get out. So, okay, next thing we're going to be talking about is marketing automation. Now, as a marketing manager, I do love marketing automation. I've been to lots of different seminars before. I think the first time I spoke with Jim Chiswell was in Missouri over at Tantara, probably 2014. And he talks about different ways of gathering data and utilizing that data to make the best out of your facility, which is great. And you do that through a few different ways. The first way I'm going to talk about real quick is going to be source tracking. It's very important. I hear that in a lot of the other technology tracks and things like that, is basically finding out where you're getting this information. Where are your customers coming from? If they're finding you through social media, or if they're driving by, or if you're putting out ads in the penny saver, whatever you're doing, as long as you're tracking that information within your management software, then at least you'll have that information that you can analyze in your reports and, again, adjust accordingly. And that's the most important part about automation. You're setting these rules for things to go out and do it themselves. That's fine. If something doesn't work, just change it up. Over here, you're going to be tracking unique entries for different promotions that you're doing, different advertising sources, and if you're doing any referral tracking as well, a lot of people like to use kind of refer a friend promotions. And bottom line is all of these should be able to be tracked within your management software as well. Exit surveys, it's kind of the same thing as this source tracking. Basically, you want to get an idea of where everything is kind of coming from throughout the duration of your tenant's visit with you. How was your customer service? How was the unit? Was everything clean? These kind of things. And like I said, it's going to be the theme of what I'm talking about, is kind of learn how everything has been going and adjust accordingly. Now, I had to put reporting in here, but reporting is kind of the most simplistic part of automation, because probably 99% of you are already doing that already. You have end-of-day reports, you have end-of-month reports, end-of-year reports. All of these are being generated either via email or being printed out and being done every single time that you need them to be right now. Thing is, you can still take these and create different report groups. If you have certain ones you're sending to certain people at certain times, Again, it's going to be under your discretion, and you're going to be making those decisions. But bottom line is having those key points for you is really going to help you overall. Tenant communication. A lot of the information over here is going to be directed at a few different sources. You do have a lot of different ways to contact your tenants these days. And a lot of people that I've spoken to are already utilizing a few of these methods. I've seen people using text messages for different things, call centers, and all of those, we'll kind of go into. But it's important to stay in front of them. For them to retain their business with you, it's good for them to feel like they're welcome, and it's also good for you. So, like I said, text messaging, first one. There's lots of people that are using this right now. I've seen them used for so many different reasons, and it's great. You can set these up to be sent automatically for customers. They have a 99% open rate. If you compare that to basically any other means of communication these days, it's mind-boggling how well text messages work. And I do it myself. If anyone texts me, I'm going to check it. But bottom line is you can send these out for birthdays, anniversary reminders, late notices, things like that. And what you want to do, especially for these kind of things, is you want to put out information for your website. Make it easier for the customer to communicate back, whether that be two-way text messaging or just a simple link to the payment page for that particular unit. I mean, you can set these up within your software to do pretty much anything. I always like to actually get new ideas and see different things. So I've had some customers do some weird stuff. It's good weird, though. So, next thing we have is certified mail and registered email. Certified mail everyone has been using for a very, very long time. We know the drill on these. It already comes with pretty much every single software available to you. It's within your state laws. You know what you're doing on this. But it's still automation. It was one of the fundamentals of automation within self-storage. And you're doing it now, so A+ for you guys. Next step is going to be the registered email. I think it's done through RPost or RMail, but bottom line is they can send out these registered emails that will give open read receipts, and they're court admissible. They will show delivery and delivery time, open time, and then archive copies of them within your management software as well. So they actually help out a lot. And like I said, they'll have a better open rate and everything, and if you ever have to get taken to court for these things, that's going to be within your software, within your mail, within their mail.
What was the name of that company?
It's RMail. RMail or RPost. I think they just recently changed to RMail, but it's one of the two. Dean over there is going to be mad at me for me saying that now. Call centers. There are lots of different call center integrations out there available at these times. I know not everyone's going to need these. I know not everyone really kind of wants to jump into that idea, but they are available, and they do offer lots of benefits for you. You have fewer missed rentals. It's going to be the obvious point. Whether you have one manager over there missing calls because they're constantly on the phone making collections calls or on the phone with other customers, or if it's just after hours answering, these people are going to be there available for you. Obviously, there's going to cost involved as well, but they help you for the time that management can't. And we all know that happens. So, data hosting and security. I don't know if many have read any of my things that I've written. Probably not. But I really harp on these subjects a lot. Data security is, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of self-storage that goes underlooked. Because a lot of the time, you make decisions on management software, on things like that, but you don't know where your data is being stored at the same time. And that's your tenant's data. That's your business information. And with all of that, with all of the attacks, I mean, this is 2018 at this point. We have to have a better knowledge of these at this point. We do. Not having that information just makes you vulnerable, and it makes your tenants vulnerable. So basically going into this, reliable server networks is something to bring up. I'm sure some of you guys have had discussions with management or customers having issues not being able to access certain things at certain times, whether that be because of a DDoS attack, AWS services have gone down. I mean, we've all basically had issues like that. In 2017, I think there was 3 major attacks alone that caused major outages. And I've had customers calling saying that they basically can't do anything. It depends on where your data is, if that's going to be affected for you. And it's really going to have a large impact on the speed and different things like that that you actually take into consideration every day. If you run reports at the end of the day, I had a gentleman actually came up to me over here 2 years ago. When he ran reports at the end of the day, it took him 2 hours, he said. 2 hours just to close end of day. They had 25 sites over there. The issue was, though, is that the data sometimes gets bottlenecked. You're running these large reports on these servers, and the information gets bottlenecked because it's all coming from the same place, all trying to do the same thing at the same time. It's very data intensive. The way that you basically protect yourself against these kind of things is just doing your research, just asking these questions beforehand. You know, who do you host with? Where are they hosted? What kind of different information you can get from there is what's really going to help you overall. Different providers out there. I think I mentioned Amazon Web Services a moment back. There's also Microsoft Azure. Some people host it themselves. I mean, the levels of security are night and day between these. They're measured by the Uptime Institute on tiers. So basically, a tier 1 can be a server that a flower shop is running off of in the back room. Whereas tier 4 could be a government-sized operation that's obviously very well protected. But where your data is, I mean, it's important to know these things. Moving on. Data hosting and security. This is basically going to be focusing on different things for EMV transactions right now. So back, I believe it was October 2015, there was that mandate switch over from swipe cards to pin and chip cards. And we basically ran into kind of a roadblock. A lot of people at first started saying that it wasn't important to switch over, and the thing is, it is. I mean, every single one of you probably have a pin and chip card for your ATM right now. Anything beyond that has really kind of lost its appeal for business owners. The reason being is because as the market for the magstripe credit cards gets smaller for these hackers and those who would want to do malicious things with your information, basically they start targeting other industries. So right now, you look at self-storage in America as a $38 billion industry. And if you don't really understand the focus of these malicious attackers, basically you're going to become the target. Having these standards in place, you know, they're for a reason. We're actually the last ones holding up over here for many, many, many nations. But that's fine. You know, I'm okay being in last place over there. As long as we get this done and protect ourselves from these attacks, I'm very happy. You've also started to see different providers start charging non-EMV compliance fees. I think Vantiv started this January 2016. And if you ever have any problems with your credit card transactions or anything like that, then you already know that this is going to be an issue. You don't want to be paying more for something that's kind of frivolous at this point. Basically, I want to open up the floor to any questions anyone might have so we can kind of go over anything, as I did kind of zoom through everything anyway. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Yes? Sorry, I'll be right with you.
Got a question.
Yes.
I bought my kiosk in 2006, been using it. Not many people rent at it, but use it regularly to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't dispense locks from it. I have a lock in an empty unit if somebody wants to come and rent and so forth. My question is, I'm getting ready to build a second facility, and I'm wondering, I'll have a manager at the second facility.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering, instead of spending the money on a kiosk, and they work well, I wonder if I could just forget about kiosks and just move on to having a sign where people can download an app and just pay their bill on the app instead of the 18 grand for the kiosk.
I mean, you can definitely do that. I mean, your website should already kind of have those abilities tied in with it right there. I mean, as far as apps or anything like that, there's always an app for that. Website's going to be your, yeah, I know I'm going to get sued for saying that. But your website's going to be your first way to just kind of be in front of your customers. You always want to direct them to there anyway. That's where you're going to have your information. That's where you can have even just a button over there saying, make a payment. You're welcome. So you had a question?
I was getting ready to ask, I'm getting ready to build a facility, I was coming out of power equipment, but we were just talking about how much a kiosk really costs, and we said, $18,000.
They do have different models. OpenTech Alliance is the provider of the kiosks. Myself, I'm not really affiliated with them, just definitely as far as automation goes, if you're trying to decrease staffing costs, just kind of weigh what you're looking for right there.
But like he said, if you've got that phone there, what do you really need the kiosk besides giving them, just can't give them a lock? And I mean, that's kind of,
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
I mean, well, why, he had a good point about why do you need that kiosk if you've got instructions there on how to pay or something, or they can get the code back, get back in, you know, through the automated system. You don't have to have that kiosk there. You can have it to where, you know, they'll, like anybody will send you a code back that once you pay your bill to get back into the storage unit, you know, to get through the gate.
That's a good point. Basically, he's just mentioning that how kiosks themselves can provide a lock and everything like that, but without that, I mean, you're basically going for online payments at that point. There's no mechanism in place that's going to be able to deliver a lock to your customers without the kiosk. I mean, it's basically... Make a vending machine. I'll be up here talking about that then. Anything else, sir?
No, I was going to put in a kiosk if he just said that.
Honestly, it's really going to depend on what you're looking at. If you're trying to automate everything completely without on-site management, a kiosk might be an option to look at. It really might be. But this gentleman, he was talking about having a second site with on-site management there already. With the on-site management, I'm not going to say it takes away the need for the kiosk, but it definitely diminishes the benefit of it.
Yeah, so when you are talking about automatic rate increases
Yes.
of customers, how upfront are you with that from the beginning? Is that like a rate schedule provided to customers, or is that just, you know, it hits them a year later, they get a rate increase, and they don't really notice it? What have you seen in that regard?
I've seen both actually do that. Some people like to be upfront about those things, but at the same time, do you already basically tell your customers, hey, I'm probably going to push your rates up in the future? I mean, it's not really one of those kind of selling points that you're already telling them. So most of the time, it's not something that you're going to want to just tell everyone, but it's going to be happening anyway. So it kind of takes the necessity of that out of the equation. You know, they still get the notice, but there's no reason to really tell your customers beforehand. Exactly. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of that in the first place. But I definitely understand that the kind of question on almost ethics on that. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Thought I saw another hand earlier. Yes, sir. I agree. Basically, the gentleman was saying that he has multiple facilities running with the kiosks, and out of all of the years working with all of the locations, he has only had, was it 3, 5? Possibly over the years. And it's a good point. People do like the security of the kiosk. They like to be able to go over and know that they can just get something done as quickly as possible and get out of there. The only reason I was saying anything about the website on top of that would be the same kind of convenience, but that's really only applying to either online rentals or online payments. But with those, you're basically doing the same thing, only the convenience from your own home. making that payment without having to drive over to the facility instead. And with the live video interaction that you can get from the kiosks as well, you still have that sense that you can still communicate with someone if need be. It is real. That's why I really like the idea of kiosks. I think they are great for the industry, and I think that they really hold an important part for people that actually can find benefit with that, which is fantastic. And I still use those fast checkout lines at the grocery store. I use the new ATM things over at Chase. I don't know, they put those things in so you basically go over there instead of going up. There's definitely a lot of need for that kind of autonomy, and it's always going to help anyone. You get that kind of benefit of having that interaction if need be, but you still get in and get out of there at a lot faster rate. So it helps decreasing the time of management while helping your customers. Well, thank you for coming to the automation techniques.